Innovation's ugly, awkward, clunky, difficult and unknown. It lurks in garages, labs, fields, offices, cafes, pubs, the back of envelopes and around kitchen tables. It's not about answers, but it's about finding the right problem. An innovation journey will take you through many loops, dead ends and stalemates. It will force you to make decisions you'd rather not make. Innovation is a journey that changes both the destination and the traveller. Where will your innovation journey begin? So I like that because it says that innovation's not the normal. Innovation is about working against the normal, and particularly in the early stages, any form of innovation is ugly, awkward, clunky and difficult. The first light bulb wasn't as efficient or effective as one of these. So in my experience with innovation, it's great if you can selectively expose it to people. If you take an idea, whether it's a new light bulb or what have you, and expose it to everyone, the feedback you'll get will be, a lot of it will be negative and will crush the concept. So we sort of work on a philosophy of selective exposure as the development of that concept expands. When the light bulb was developed, electricity in homes wasn't common. So it's, these questions about who's ever going to use this light bulb, all of those types of problems which could crush the innovation. If you, say, have an ideas board, which is an often common starting point for innovation programs, an individual won't necessarily have ideas of a scale that are going to result in disruptive activity. And it's where sort of group workshops and ideation sessions and things like that can really add a lot of value, because what you're trying to do in any major innovation program is create either organisational wide or cross-process or cross-functional changes. So you might be making a substantial change. It needs a bunch of different departments to get together to make that happen. And it's unlikely to come in its own right out of one specific area. It needs sort of a higher level, let's get a cross-functional team together, let's talk about what we could actually do if our driver is improved access to information systems. We might need, some IT guys there. We might need. This was the beginnings of an innovation program to sort of define all the key elements as we saw them. So just go through a few of them quickly. Power users is a great concept. You need points across the organisation, because innovation isn't just a thing that's sort of closed in this is my innovation thing. You need cooperation from different areas, and particularly in a large organisation, you can't get that from everyone simultaneously. So you need point people to go to who can then spread the word and disseminate that information internally. You may or may not have heard of the stage gate methodology, US-based methodology, great methodology for selecting and managing governance around the projects created through the innovation program. Because innovation is a mechanism for sort of leveraging knowledge, document management, information management, knowledge management, sort of key underlying principles. Need to have some goals. An innovation program without some sort of objectives, in my view, is probably going to go where its goals are, probably nowhere. And breaking those down to some key performance indicators that are ideally tied back to some performance incentives for individuals, and we'll talk about some of the challenges of doing that in a government context, because it's much more complex than, say, in the private sector. An assessment framework, how we're going to assess these innovations, these ideas, how we're going to prioritise problem solving and identifying the right problems, to me, is one of the big keys in an innovation program. If you have the right problem, you can create the solution. It's not that hard. If you say, well, my problem is my printer doesn't work, well, the solution is either get another one or get networked to someone else, or work out a different way of printing, distributing it to, send the file direct to Snap or whatever. But if you don't know that that's the problem, you just say, oh, I'm having troubles with my computer. You can't fix it. So you've really got to hone down into this problem. And I think a lot of people don't spend the time on the problem, they spend the time on the solution. There are two primary types of activity that go on within an organisation. There's business as usual and there's project activity. And my contention is that most project activity is innovation by nature. So business as usual activity is about undertaking what we're doing and just continuing to do that in the same old way for here till kingdom come. Projects are about changing the way that we do that business as usual activity. So if we expand that out a little bit, we have, I guess, the beginnings of an innovation model, depending on how you talk about it or wrap it up. So we have a number of different factors. Environment influencing our business as usual activities, so customers, number of people, all sorts of things. Our strategy impacting business as usual. Our projects impacting our business as usual, and our business as usual impacting our projects. So if people are having trouble doing things in this business as usual, that's often a good driver for projects. But if from a strategy level, coming down through our programs, we have new concepts and new projects, they will actually go back and change the business as usual activity. So to me, this is, I guess these become the domains of innovation, and so you can wrap activities that are happening in there up into a brand of innovation, give it a label. You don't need any more budget, you don't really need to do anything except say, well, here's all this stuff that's going on, this is now part of our innovation program. You've made a big step forward from the outset if you didn't have that in the beginning. This is a process that we've put together for implementing the innovation process. Looking at the process itself, we're going to start basically just going through the elements of this and talking about each of the aspects, because theoretically if all these elements are in place in the right way and interconnected correctly, you should have a successful program. Track record in itself is an interesting metric, because your innovation program standing internally is really driven by what is it done. And if it doesn't do much, or it's not seen to actually achieve anything, then it dies pretty quickly. This was the slide that really started it for them. We talked about intellectual property, intellectual assets and intellectual capital, and what they all were, how they interrelated together, and why that these are the embodiment of an innovation program. Really, part of their objective was actually to commercialise the outputs of their innovation program. So at the commercialisation end, we're pushing them towards the creation of intellectual property. So taking their knowledge of what have you, how can we bundle that up into intellectual property that we can then start to commercialise. And so it's a journey, not just a destination. Needs support from corporate executive and some funding. It's a mindset, not a business unit, although some centralised funding is required. More people involved, the better. And try and keep the lag between idea and production down.